A business is an ongoing heart attack. It never stops. Every day there's like something else happening. So you just got to be quick enough to, to act on it and share with your people and trust them, have them trust you, build it, and they'll be there for you to support you in those times.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. We have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Cheers, my friend. I know you.
Cheers, buddy.
Well,
I'm on a 90-day sober kick. I've decided 90 days. October 15th will be the date that I'm going to have another beverage.
Now, super excited for today's episode. These are two guys that are running an incredible business out in San Francisco. We got David and Michael Katz. They are brothers, and they started the business in 2021, getting asked if they could do some odd jobs around COVID and things like that. And so they started the business from that, but they took an approach of, like, they were sales guys. And so they focused heavily on sales first, service second, and they have grown rapidly. In the 3 years that they've been in business now, they're pacing 12 million this year, so hitting 8 figures. They're doing an incredible job, and not in a market where you would typically expect an HVAC company to just be thriving. This isn't Vegas. This isn't Phoenix. We're talking about San Francisco, the Bay Area, where you've got climate that is, well, relatively mild. And so there's a lot of demand that you've got to create when you're in a market like that. So I'm super excited to dive into that conversation. They were featured with Service Titan, and Ari had them come up on stage at Pantheon, getting to chat with them in terms of their rapid growth. And so they've been recognized on the national stage before. We wanted to have them on the show. They said that they are longtime listeners of the show, and they even brush their teeth while watching this show. So always want to reward our loyal listeners and bring them onto the show, have some great conversations, shoot the shit, and pick apart what it is that they've done right and what they would have wished they did a little bit differently.
I like that part of what they wish they would have done a little bit differently. But I know one thing we briefly chatted about before we got going was, what's holding people back, and unpacking that part of things, because there's knowledge is everywhere. And if everybody that has an internet connection should have the knowledge, but it's actually implementation of that. And so I'm excited to unpack that because they've been on a rapid growth of success lately. But of course, today's show would not be possible without our sponsors, and in no particular order: Elite Call, Chirp, Service World, Expo, and On Purpose Media. So join us for the most magical contractor experience at Service World Expo in Orlando, Florida from October 15th to 17th. Enjoy keynotes, breakout sessions, 4-hour workshops, social mixers, and exhibit hall with industry-leading products and podcasts like ours. We'll be there. See you there. Network with other residential contractors and hear from some amazing keynotes, all designed to help contractors like you elevate your business. Register now and use promo code SECRETS100 for $100 off. Visit serviceworldexpo.com to register today, and we'll see you there.
We have Elite Call. Ever thought about outbounding your databases to fill your dispatch boards with lucrative service and sales appointments? Boosting your memberships too? Enter Elite Call. They're a US-based call center that does just that. For over 20 years, their dedicated teams don't just make calls, they directly integrate appointments into your CRM and fill your dispatch boards. Don't let your competition get ahead. Let Elite Call connect with your customers first. Visit elitecall.net to learn more.
We're just ripping on all cylinders here today. It's great. I'm under the weather too, so it's going to be even better. So, so the other one, you can transform your home service business with Chirp, the ultimate automation toolbox. Capture more leads, connect instantly, and skyrocket your sales. Chirp integrates seamlessly with platforms like Service Titan, House Call Pro, offering automated text, emails, and even ringless voicemails. You can boost your Google reviews and customer loyalty with their proven rehash program. Schedule your demo today. Again, exclusive 25% off your first 3 months. Visit chirp.com/HSSR to start boosting your revenue today.
I love it. And when it comes to new customers, you need to enhance your online presence. And you can do that with On Purpose Media, your go-to home service marketing experts for everything web design, SEO, PPC. They take care of your stunning. We take care of your stunning websites built to convert visitors into phone calls, because a beautiful website without phone calls is a wasted opportunity. And of course, if you got a beautiful website but no one can find it, that's a wasted opportunity too, which is where the SEO and the PPC comes in. And we take care of all of that, minimizing wasted ad spend. It's a huge push for us right now, is making sure that every ad dollar is being used towards driving results into your business. So let us turn your online presence into a lead generating powerhouse. Visit onpurposemedia.ca to start your digital transformation today. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, why don't
Thank
we
you.
start off with your journey? How did you get here? Journey into the trades. How did you find it? And then why did you eventually start your business?
I know
First of
Michael
all,
telling this story, so go for it.
yeah, you see, I already jumped. No, I was actually going to say thank you guys for Evan and Thad for having us on the show. I mean, we're definitely big listeners to it, and I do brush my teeth to it. That's not even a joke. I do brush my teeth to it. No, how we started. I mean, like the full story of how we even got into the industry, or specifically with HVAC, how that transition became about.
Yeah, the whole journey into the trades. Like, what was
The
it
whole
about the
thing.
trades that even got you attracted to it in the first place? And then how did we get here?
Well, the trades, it's a hidden gem, and pardon me for the echoing over here, but basically, it all started when David and I moved to the US from Israel. It was like about 8 years ago now. And mainly we just didn't necessarily, we're salespeople all of our lives, but we moved in here and we were looking for something that we won't necessarily have a cap to how much we can make. We're very driven, very ambitious, we wanted to do a lot. So we got into the installation industry, attics, crawl spaces here in the Bay Area, and we got pretty good at it. David was actually one of the top sales guys in the company, and I started out actually being the worst sales guy in the company. I was actually about to be fired, and the manager gave me 2 weeks to give him a very unbelievable number, which was his way of saying, like, you're going to go. And that was the time I went to David and told him, like, what am I going to do? I can't sell. It's not my thing. I don't like to sell something to people, something they don't need. And he basically told me, just go in and give them good customer service and try to look out for their best interest. And a few months after that, I broke company record. And after that, we just started breaking each other's record, became managers in competing companies. And everything was awesome. It was really great. And, for people to kind of get the perspective, and this is part of the thing that I always want to do, to really get people to understand that the HVAC industry and the trades in general is really a hidden gem. Like, there's so many opportunities for growth and career, and people are always looking at, doctor, lawyer, all these, or tech. We're in the Bay Area, so every second person here is working at a tech company making, I don't know how much, these crazy amounts of money. But in the HVAC industry, you have that too. So basically with us, in the trade, we were a young 22-year-old making $20,000, $30,000 a month, which, definitely affects a young kid. So we were able to, make some investments. We weren't necessarily, really, dumb with our money, but we made some investment. We've done a bunch of different things, and real estate, open a restaurant, literally whatever. I remember there was this one year David came to, was like, we got to do some investment. We just did like 5 different investments at the same time, which was the worst thing you could possibly ever do. But that's what we always do. We always like overdo it and then kind of fix it as we go along. But anyways, everything was perfect, but it was very, very boring to us on one side. And on the other hand, there was this one night that really brought the business about, because we were always thinking about opening a business, but what's the point? I'm making 20, 30 a month. I'm working. At that point, it was like 3 days a week for 4 hours a day. That's how good we got at our craft and what we were doing. And it's kind of hard to move away from it. But there was this one day we were sitting in San Francisco. We rented an apartment, and I was just watching the TV, and David walks by out of nowhere, just out of nowhere. What are you going to do if you break your leg tomorrow? And I was like, I don't know. What do you mean? He's like, if you're going to break tomorrow, like, for money, what are you going to do? You're not going to drive to your leads, right? And I said, like, I don't know. And he just took off. He just left me with that. And I ruined my show. I'm there for like 15 minutes. I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do now? And like, I got to figure it out. I go to the bathroom. I come back out and I tell him, let's open a business. And he says, okay, cool. What do you want to do? And I said, well, just do whatever's like the easiest thing. And we had a friend that just opened a duct cleaning business at that time. And, if you know the guy, I love the guy to death, but he's a very lazy person. He likes to keep things very like simple. He doesn't like headaches. I was like, if he can do it, I'm sure we can do it. And that's what we did. Later that day, we opened the business. The website was live. I came up with the name Pacific Air, which was the previous name to Trio. And that's it. We were just doing like a little bit of side jobs. And the real transition to HVAC took place later, because that was a side hustle. It had a guy in a van, and pretty much he was just driving to do jobs. And I was just on the phone, running the whole thing. There wasn't any overhead. There wasn't anything. It was just a truck on a lease, and that's it. And what happened was, basically right before COVID time, my cousin down in LA, he started telling me about heating and air conditioning. He said, you really got to get into HVAC. The margins are amazing. You really have to do it. And I kept hearing it over and over and over again. And it wasn't until, COVID that came in and everything just kind of blew out of proportion. Private equities were just buying companies all over the place. There was this massive growth. And there was this one video that he showed me that really got me into the trades, I can say. He told me, he was down in LA. So NextGen was one of the biggest companies over there. At the time, there was a big hype about it. And he sent me a video. He's like, take a look at this company, see what this guy's doing. And I looked at the video and I looked at the billboards and I'm seeing online and I'm like, who is this guy? How did he get there? Like, what is he doing? And I started researching a little bit about, heating and air conditioning. And it was funny because this is how everything became together. It's a crazy story. Another friend of mine bought me a book, an audio book, years ago. It was Home Service Millionaire by Tommy Mello. I was not like, and I didn't understand anything about HVAC. I didn't know anything about the trades. So I was listening to the book. I almost finished it. I had like 2 hours left out of 8 hours, I think. But I didn't understand what a KPI was, what a P&L was, what does it mean, the marketing spend and SEO and all these things. I didn't understand it. And literally a month after I'm watching the Ishmael video, I'm seeing a podcast going live. For some reason, it jumped on my YouTube page, like as a recommendation. And it was Tommy Mello and Ishmael, both of them, talking about how he grew the business to 30 million. And that same day I went to David and I said, we're going into HVAC. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take out HVAC leads. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm going to run those leads. I'll get some subcontractors. They'll do the job. We'll see how it goes. And I just went out for 6 months, sold furnaces and ACs, didn't even know how to open a thermostat. I was scared I'm going to get shocked or something. And I was just selling the jobs. And every time the subcontractors would go do it, I would just sit with them and ask them questions. But the problem is also that took a while because they're scamming, unfortunately. And, these subcontractors that are not well established, they do some shady stuff sometimes. And I didn't learn necessarily the best way of doing HVAC. So it was a lot of trial and error until in 2021 July we decided to really do it in-house, to do it right. We saw the wrong way of doing it. We wanted to do it the right way. So we did our first HVAC job 2021. And from there everything just skyrocketed, and here we are facing 12-15 million this year.
All right, do we need to fact check any of that, David?
I mean,
hey, right there.
I mean, yeah, right behind
Little data cube dashboard.
Yeah, man.
I mean,
data cube's the best.
It was such a crazy thing to do. Like when he came to me and said, like, we're going into HVAC, and I was like, I don't know, like, what are you talking about? We know nothing about this trade. Like, why would you start a business knowing nothing, absolutely nothing about what you're doing? And as we went into this, we kind of saw, how, first of all, the community of this industry is just so incredible. Like the people in the industry, the supply houses that you're going to, like the customer technical support in the industry, just the people that work in this industry give such a warm feeling of family-like industry. And you go out and ask for help and people jump in and help you out, like to figure things out. And we realized, oh my God, there's a whole world here that we weren't even aware of. Like we've never felt this in anything that we've done before. Not in the restaurant, not in real estate, not even in insulation. And we've been working for years doing these kind of things. And you kind of got this warm feeling of like, I think I found my place. I think this is it. I think this is what I want to do. And I feel extremely lucky, extremely blessed to be in this industry. And we had to learn fast. I mean, I have so much respect for the people in this industry. It's such a hard job. And we knew we need to catch up. So, we started the first HVAC job was July 2021. So exactly 3 years we're looking at, right? And dude, Mike and I were just sitting, studying non-stop, just sitting, watching people work on the job site, understanding what they're doing, asking questions, watching YouTube videos. Like, through the middle of the night, like I would find myself just watching YouTube videos, just trying to understand things so I can catch up with these people, so I can have, the terminology. And yeah, we're super blessed, super lucky to be, in this trade, really.
Well, I love the humility part of it too, but I think that the part that I really like is that you said, "Hey, let's start a business," and you bought the domain and basically launched the website within like 24 hours. You're like, "Fuck it, I'm not gonna wait." Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Done is better than perfect, and you're like, "Hey, we'll figure it out along the way." And I mean, we can get into the what's holding people back because of that I think. I mean, people say, "I want to start a business," and they talk about it, and then they talk about it, and then they talk about it, and all of a sudden it's 5 years they still haven't started their business. So what is it that you, and either one of you guys can answer this, but I mean, what is it that you find is that thing that holds people back from actually going forward and just doing it?
I had a conversation with someone earlier today, one of our employees. I love this guy. I've been with us since the very beginning, since we were like three or four people in the company, and it's kind of going through a hard time. So I decided, I'm so disconnected from the field now that I want to, proactively take these steps and kind of connect with my team. So I saw he was a bit down today. I took him, we just got into my car and told him, hey, before you start your day, let's just take a ride. Let's just drive together. And I started asking him questions about how things are going for him, and he's going through some pretty hard time. And one of the biggest worries that he shared with me, and a lot of people are sharing the same issues when they're trying to plan their next steps in life, is, yeah, but what if I lose everything I worked for? What if I lose everything I've worked for? And I feel like this is such a common fear that I've seen, with people around me in my life since a very young age. Like literally, I've been trying to help my friends in everything, friends and family in everything that they needed help with. And the sad thing about it, a lot of people are not even accepting help. Like they're not even accepting it, right? But it's mainly the fear. So I asked the question, it's a very simple question. What is it that you're going to lose exactly? Like, how much do you have? What is it that you're going to lose? Okay, let's say you have whatever, $15,000 in your bank account right now, or you have this thing that you've been working on, or this thing. Like, what is it? Are you losing a $10 million company right now? What are you losing that you can't come back from? Like, what is it? Is it a life or death situations? Like, I think that people just really take decision making a bit too seriously, as if, they're going to make the decision and they're doomed. Like, oh my God, I can't come back from this, right? Like, this is it. If I make the decision and
What
I'm
if?
wrong, like the what if, right? What if and what if and what if and what if. I was like, guys, just listen. I promise you, make the decision. If this wasn't the right one, you're gonna find out, and you can recover it from it pretty quickly. Like you're not losing $500,000, right? It's $10,000, it's $5,000, it's $2,000, whatever it is. And I know people worked very hard for it, but the next question I asked them, if you do lose, say, half of it, or whatever it is that you're risking, that you're putting on the line here, what would how would it change your day to day? Like how would it impact your life?
Hmm.
And it's funny because some, like majority of the time, the answer, it's not going to impact my life. I'm going to continue to live my day to day exactly the same way I'm living it right now, whether I have five or 10, right? So it's like, okay, if it's really impacting your life, if it's taking, presents, under the Christmas tree from your kids, that's a different story, right? Like, yeah, let's take it in consideration. But most of the time, that's not the case. So I think just putting things in proportion, like not every decision is a life or death situation, right? Not every step you're gonna make is a life or death situation. Like just you gotta give it a try. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think another thing that I'm noticing as a pattern, because it's funny, a lot of the people that friends and people that we worked with, maybe they see a post online, or maybe they heard from someone, or maybe they saw the wrapped vehicles and they shoot me a text. They're like, "Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. How's everything going?" And I always invite them to a shop tour, and they take a look at it, and they start texting me questions. How does this work? How should I do this? What's the best app? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I start with like this guy I found on Facebook for marketing, or should I go with the established agency? So
On
I
purpose
think
media. Sorry, had something in my throat there.
that's right. That's right. So I mean, they kind of go about it as a grocery list. People think that opening a business is like a grocery list. So you're kind of going to go and like, okay, so we need chairs, and we need office space, and we need this, and we need a girl to do this, and we need a shop guy, and and they start going through all these different lists when in reality it's not really that. But I mean, and I understand it too, because they don't know what they don't know. So they're just basically grabbing what makes sense to them, right? They're taking pictures of office from their head, right? Pictures of office spaces they've seen or movies, and they kind of start building it up. And it's actually not necessarily like that. In addition to that, they get really confused because they looked at a well-established business and sometimes they want to jump over their head, or sometimes they kind of see it as really far. And they might hear about the struggle you're going through and they're thinking, oh my God, what if that happens to me? What if something worse happens to me? So I can understand them before they even get a chance to, take a look at a Service Titan or House Call Pro demo. They're already like, they have a million things running through their head. So I think we were blessed by not really aiming high in the beginning and just starting small. Because for the duct cleaning, what I needed was an air duct cleaning machine and a van. And that was it. And as far as, nowadays, we're talking like, years ago. Nowadays, there's so many apps that came out there that you can literally open a business for free in a night. There's a program and an AI that will do the website for you. They'll make the logo for you. There's so many things out there. So I think probably the best recommendation I can give to anyone wanting to start a business is to not start a business, to start a side hustle and make it into a business when it makes sense, right? You take your side hustle, you make it your main hustle when it's time. But you really have to just start. Just put a guy, in a truck, or go work for a company that's well established for a few months and figure out how they do it. And you really just need a website, a Yelp, Google page, and that's pretty much it. Even if you're, in the beginning, let me explain how wrong this was. Okay, you guys are probably going to feel this one.
I love when people have wrong things that they've done, that they've learned from.
Oh my God. So here's the thing. We've had the worst experience with marketing in the beginning. It was absolutely a nightmare. And we were actually paying this guy from a certain country to basically do the Google ads for us. And I'm like, I don't think this guy's doing anything, and money's just going away. So I told David, you know what? I'm going to do it. The worst part of it was I was doing better than that guy, but I didn't know how bad I was doing. Can you imagine a guy like me just jumping on ads, Google, and just starting to budget and clicking numbers and like, oh my God, we lost money. Okay, well, I'll go make another sale. We'll figure it out. Thank God I was a sales guy. I could generate another sale tomorrow and we're good, because the overhead was like nothing. It was the car, and we had money again. So we kind of like, back at the time, we saved up so much. We weren't that scared. But anyways, I think people should really understand you need to start small. You need to just start with something small. And you're not going to get all the answers, but you kind of have to figure it out as you go along. You don't have to make a list and then start. You have to start, see what you're missing, and then start adding it as you go. I think that makes more sense to me.
No, that's fantastic. And it's funny you mentioned the entrepreneur mindset of figuring, trying to sell your way out of any problem that you could possibly run into. Because that's just a curse that we are all blessed with. I think anyone that gets into business has that mindset. It's just 100%. Like, I'll figure it out and I'm just going to sell my way out of it.
Well, and
David,
the reality is that you don't need the polished office space to start. Think about the great companies that started in a garage: Amazon, Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Big companies.
Well, and
Trio.
And like On Purpose Media. Wasn't a garage though.
Going back to David's point there, in terms of why there's inaction around starting or assessing risk and going through all of that. One of the actually, I just talked about it earlier today too with someone. I feel like a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this, by the way, so this is not something that I'm pointing on anyone else. This is my own realization of myself, is we create complexities in order to justify inaction. The more
100%.
complex something is, well, of course I can't get started. Look at all these things that I have to do. Of course I can't do that. Instead of just chipping away at one thing at a time and looking at what is the most important thing that we need to do right now, we need to sell.
That's
period.
100%. This is something that I mentioned. I used to have someone that was with us since the beginning, and he always has a hard time to take action. I'm always noticing that it's a hard time for him to take action. But he was exactly like you were saying. He was making it so big that I had to break it down for him to levels that were just. I'm actually shocked that we had to go down to these levels. But sometimes, every person and where they kind of get this pattern and they're stuck with it and they just don't see the way out. But he gave me this, list of problems, and I basically asked him, what's the most urgent thing? And he said, everything is urgent. And I said, oh, okay, well, no, that's not true. So like, what is the most urgent thing? And you have to kind of break it down, make them feel really comfortable so they can actually share with you. Or maybe it's something like, what do you not know the most? What are you the most scared of? Maybe that's what it is. But from there, you just have to really break it down. So what I told him is, you know what? We're not going to work on the problem. We're going to schedule a meeting to think about the problem. Then I'm going to schedule another meeting with you a week after that to talk about the problem. And then 2 weeks after that, or 3 weeks after that, we're going to start taking action. And a month after that, we're going to start doing it. I broke it down for him for such a long period of time, but that was where his comfort was with how big the fear was. So because I did that, he actually came back to me earlier and started completing it sooner. So it's just a matter of where they're at. It's the same, like you have to understand sometimes in your business, they do these personality assessments, and every person has their own way to communicate. There's one person that you're going to go to, ask them a question, and they'll give you the answer. They'll spit it out. There's another person, you ask them the question, they feel like you're attacking them, or they might feel like, you're putting them on the spot, and they might get nervous. They might give you the wrong answer. But if you tell them, hey, I'm going to come to you in about an hour. I'm going to ask you a question about this matter. Can you please have all the answers ready for it to make sure that we can, tackle it correctly? So you have to really understand people are in different comfort levels and people have different fears, but it is really, really important. You have to start small. It's like going to the gym tomorrow and just pumping, the most that you can, and look the next day in the mirror and say, nah, see, it's too hard. I can't do it. So, I mean, you have to really start small and let it evolve from there.
Yep, 100%. So with that thought then, something I'm curious on is, we talked about starting a business and taking that first step. Knowing what you know now and where you're at right now, how do you assess risk differently when there's so much more on the line? Like the amount of mouths that you're feeding on a monthly basis within your organization, between your team members, all of their families, all of their kids, everything. There's so much more that's on the line for you right now. How is the risk taking different and your risk tolerance different now versus when you started?
I think over time, so what a business does to you is it really stretches you. That's probably the best way to kind of explain it. Your problem solving gets better. Your ability to handle stress gets better. We have stress every day. You have to understand, it's like going into the water and you're trying to swim against current. We're always about growth, right? We want to grow and grow and grow. And there's a certain point that the market tells you there is no growth. There is no leads. There is no work. And we're still growing. Like just now, beginning of 2024 was the hardest year in heating and air conditioning or in the trades for the last 20 years. And this is statistics from Service Time and a lot of like industry wide. And it's been the hardest year we've ever had too. We've never expected what happened to us because we are responsible to families. In addition to that, there's a long-term effect to the business by losing people. If you can provide them a full board every day, at the end of the day, they have mouths to feed. They got to figure out a way to make that. So I think it's really, really important to really understand that there's always going to be risks. And over time, you get better at these risks. But it depends on where exactly you want to go when you're calculating and kind of thinking, where should I go with this? So we've made tons of mistakes, and we do make mistakes every day. And we have worked in companies that made mistakes too. I have companies not able to pay me payroll before. I've had companies that I oversold and they weren't able to supply to the customer. So I've experienced a lot of similarities and problems that we're facing here because running an operation is so difficult. There's so many small bits and pieces to it, especially when you're trying to grow really fast. Your org chart changes consistently. Your processes change consistently. You implement a new app every Monday and Friday. So it's just really, really difficult. I think that when something happens, usually what we try to do is, we go back to our core values and culture, and we make sure to involve people in the problem. So the reason why we have Data Cube over there on the wall is to make sure that people understand where the business is. People need to know where we're at. If we have calls, if we don't have calls, if we're profitable, if we're not profitable, and we share it with people and we say, hey, here is the problem that we have right now. Here are our options. What do you think we should do? And we consult with our management team. We really, ask them, what do you think? We've done probably the stupidest thing we could have ever done in our lives. And, going back into, I knew at the time it was a mistake and we still did it. I don't know why. That's just something that we do, I guess. We decided to rebrand going into slow season. I can't even explain to you the conversation we had with the marketing company. They were sitting on the screen trying to find the right words to explain to us how stupid it is and how we're making the biggest mistake of our life. But we were waiting to do it for so long, there was never a perfect time. I was thinking like, there's never a perfect time to go to the gym. There's never a perfect time to eat healthy. Let's just do it. No, actually, there is a perfect time. And we made a mistake. And it was the hardest slow season that the industry has ever experienced. Plus, we changed the name, rebranded, so no one knows who we are. So it was just, it was a risk. We didn't have enough calls on the board. But what did we do? As an operator, every time that there's a risk, you have to assess, you have to consult with people, you have to see exactly if you can sustain it, if you can support it. What would you do worst case scenario? How do you make sure that you pay people first? That's the most important thing. In any risk that you have, the most important thing that you have to make sure is that your people are paid, that people are taken care of, that there isn't anything, that your customer is not getting a bad experience, or you just don't pick up the call, or you have to make sure that some pillars of the business are still there. And I think that probably that's the most important thing. And at the end of the day, that's your job as an operator. You have to somehow navigate all the problems that are coming. You just have to figure out a way to work around it. So with us, you guys are sponsored by Elite Call. Shout out to Travis and Leslie. They're absolutely incredible. They really helped us in the time when we were very low with calls on the board. They were calling customers and reaching out to them. And you can imagine a customer is getting a call he wasn't expecting to get about a name of a company he's never heard before because we're a new company. So we went through like layers and layers and layers of just horrible decision making that almost took the business under. And it still happens every day, and it will happen every day. A business is an ongoing heart attack. It never stops. Every day there's like something else happening. So you just got to be quick enough to to act on it and share with your people and trust them, have them trust you, build it, and they'll be there for you to support you in those times.
I love that running a business is like an ongoing heart attack.
Dude, it's an open heart surgery. It's a marathon.
It's fucking wild.
It's not for
It's
everyone.
fucking wild, man. It's wild.
There's nothing like
Even
it.
when
Yeah.
nothing is happening, like I'm telling like new business owners that are coming here to our shop and are asking for help, advice and stuff. And I was like, you can see that even when nothing is going wrong with their business, you get this feeling of like this I don't know how to say it, like lack of peace, like they're just uncomfortable all the time for absolutely no reason. And it's just like you have to get comfortable with this. This is how it's gonna be, right? That's
Well,
Oh yeah,
that's what it
you got to
is.
be comfortable being
Our-
uncomfortable.
Right?
part of it is just conditioning, right? Like at the end of the day, as the owners, as the CEO, the operations, COO, whatever, you are the last resort. The problems
Yeah.
that everyone else on your team can't solve, that's what you get all day long, every day. Plus the other pile of shit that you ought to do, but you just don't have the time to do because you're so busy putting out fires and everywhere other place in the business. So of course
Yeah.
you have this negative bias. Of course you think things are supposed to be going wrong right now because all you've done for the past 3 years is put out fires. So
And
yeah,
and here is a good example. What Mike just said, like this year so far, the first 6 months were the hardest time for the HVAC industry, and nobody had work, and everybody were struggling. We grew another 56% during this time, right? So first 6 months of this year compared to first 6 months of last year, we had a goal of 150% growth. We're going extremely aggressive. We made it to 56, but this is what ultimately, if the business is growing, the people in it are growing, and
100%.
right.
we always have them in mind. We make sure not to lower our prices, during this time, and get freaked out so that we can make sure these guys can still make good money. Being creative and reaching out to ask for help and finding great companies like Elite Call, like these guys did incredible for us. Like I'm so happy they're sponsoring this episode because it gives me the opportunity to talk more about them. I mean, we talked about how hard it is to make decisions sometimes. If this makes your decision easier, these guys, were such a huge help during this season. Like a lot of credit for the success. I would give these guys. They are just incredible service, incredible results. Super happy about it. So
And
yeah, thank you guys.
also, I think this is probably a lot of industry leaders are not getting enough credit. I'm listening to a podcast and it brings me a few more millions every year. And I'm listening to another podcast and it fixes my relationship with one of my managers. And I'm listening to another podcast and, my marketing is great. I think a lot of people, need to really understand the answers are actually there. The answers are there. It's just that sometimes you're focusing on the wrong thing, or you're looking to listen to the part of the episode that gets you excited about how this guy grew it to 100 million and sold it, and now he has 100 million and he's partying in Vegas every night. It's something that you need to really, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. It's something that you really need to understand to start small. And at the end of the day, shout out to Ishmael and Tommy Mello and Victor Ancor and Tom Howard and all these guys that are out there sharing so much information. I don't think people really understand it. They paved the way for us. These are people that are out there sharing so much information, telling you what to do and how to do and what to be careful from. And it's really something that you just got to listen. You just got to listen and focus on the one thing that would help you. And yes, there's always risk and there's always problems. You can't expect problems. It's not like you're having a bad day or you're a bad business owner. It's just about the matter of how fast can you learn and how much are you willing to also change yourself as a person, because you on day 1 of the business is not you on month 6 and not you on year 3. You have to change as a person. Your priorities change. Everything changes. So it's really, it's a combination of a lot of things that have to happen together, and we're experiencing it right now. I'm not going to say that we're a big company. We're ambitious. We're hungry. We're young. This is our time to do it. We're interested in doing it. We're going to make sure to break any record out, no matter how long it takes. But we also understand that some things take time, and yes, it's all on you, and it is pressure. Like, the pressure is on. You got to perform. You got to figure it out. It doesn't matter if David has this weird, I'm going to call it this weird Beyonce analogy that he always does. I fucking hate that thing, but he's right when he says it. He's basically saying, he's talking about being a professional.
I thought you were going to go with all the single
stress.
ladies, but
no, if you like it, then you have to put a ring on it, right?
But what he was saying when she has a live audience right now and she's got to put on a show, do you think she's going to take everything that's going on in her life? And everyone has something going on in her life. Her life is even more amplified than most of our lives, right? Do you think that she's going to let that affect her performance? So it's a weird analogy, but for the most part, you got to perform as a business owner. If something happened at home, someone died in your family, you're not able to pay rent or whatever it is that you're going through, but you have a sales meeting happening soon, or you have an all-hands meeting with the entire company happening soon, you better be ready to give it your best show. So that's what I'm saying. It's not for everyone. It's not comfortable. You don't get to call in sick. You don't get to, show up late. You don't get to do any of that. It's 24/7, 365 plus overtime, 14-hour, 16-hour days, 7 days a week. It's a lot. You really have to be a little bit crazy.
The mind doesn't stop, right? And that's the thing, is that, like, I was camping this weekend with a friend, and he's like, "What are you thinking about?" I'm like, "Work." Like, right, like, he's like, "Why?" And he couldn't understand it, because, like, his job is completely radically different. Like, his day's done, and I'm sure he probably thinks about it, but, like, we're always on 24/7, 365. So I love that. So, by the way, your boy's elite called Travis French. Yo, he actually texted me too. I said, I'm like, "You guys are showing some love." They said they were here, and they sent a screen. He took a picture and sent it over. But one of the things, and a couple things that I love from your rant there, is that don't compare your chapter 1 to your chapter 20. And so we're sitting here saying, hey, these guys were pacing for $12 million. Well, if you listen to this podcast and you're pacing for $2 million, don't think, oh man, I wish I were them. No, that you're in a different season. You're in a different chapter. If you're listening to this podcast and you're pacing 22 million, you're in a chapter ahead of them, right? Also know where your chapters end, right? Just because they're at 12 million doesn't mean that you need to be 12 million. Do what's right for you and your business and what you want. But I really love the part of what got you here won't get you there. Right, you need to change. You need to change yourself constantly and adapting all the time. Very, very powerful things. But to go back to the start of 2024, in part of the most challenging things that you've done, and I don't think it's quite over just yet, either,
No,
in
no.
my opinion. I think we're probably going to see it again this next following winter. What we're in, David, feel free to jump in here too. If you're to look at, okay, what did you guys do? Because people were going out of business, people were declining in their sales, people were going down in revenue, everything. But you guys grew by 56%. What are 1 to 3 things that you guys did differently that you can attribute that success to?
Yeah, I think that one of the most important things is just to understand the client's needs, right? I mean, anyone that's listening to this right now, if you have a service business, like, we're talking about a need. This is an essential thing. Like, it doesn't matter if it's HVAC, plumbing, electrical. If somebody's toilet is clogged, like they need to fix it. And we just need to, give them what they need. And one of those things was financing. We started utilizing financing this year, in ways that we've never done before, and we pushed it internally. We did a lot of training around this topic. We brought our financing vendors in-house to,
Hmm.
give training to myself, to the management team, to the salespeople, to the service technicians, and we all kind of stepped in to make sure those repairs, those fixes, those upgrades are going to be possible for the homeowners, right? Not everyone is expecting, sometimes the technician comes to the house and it's an easy, $100 repair, $200 repair, but sometimes it's something major. And not everybody has the money to do this on the spot, but they need their heating system, they need their cooling system, right? I mean, a lot of people work from home nowadays. They really, like, it just becomes more and more essential now. So I think making it accessible for people is definitely important. Like, if you're listening to this right now and you're not utilizing financing in your business, you're really not giving a lot of your clients an opportunity to buy from you, which it's a shame. They really need you. Like, they trust. Like, it's on us to be able to deliver for them and give them solutions to everything, both to the actual repair, but also to be able to pay for the repair. And many people, they don't have $2,000, sitting in their bank account just waiting for this. It kind of caught them off guard out of nowhere. So making it accessible for people, definitely a big one. Um,
How many,
Another
just
thing that,
to touch on that really
yeah.
quick here, David, how many financing options do you have? Like, how many different companies are you working with?
So we're working with two companies right now.
Okay.
And the main idea with working with two companies is just to, again, like, you want to give a backup. So if a customer tried to get approved for something, they didn't get approved, we'll always have a backup for them, something that can,
Mhm.
help them get through the process. And then other things that we did is like, contacting companies like Elite Call that help us, generate more calls on the board, for our technicians, make sure, they have work to keep them busy. Chirp is another great one that we use this year, just trying to automate the process. It helps us, reduce the loss of calls when a customer reached out to you, they left their information, you're trying to call them, they don't pick up the phone, somebody else called them right in the moment when they were free. You could have gotten that call. Somebody else called them right in the moment when they were free, just caught them on the right timing, and they got the call and you didn't, right? So that's what Chirp are doing. Like, they make sure you have this automated process of follow up with people, whether if it's, messages, emails, whatever it is that you need. That's what these guys did for us. So for us, it was like pulling a bunny out of the hat, right? It was like a magic trick that we did this year that helped us make it successful. Without these companies, we wouldn't be able to do it. So I think those will be, there are a lot of things that are happening, but those will be
There
three
are,
major ones.
I think we should actually dive into it a little bit to maybe even explain to people. So there are specific companies out there that will do the outbounding for you. So I think in slow season, as soon as we noticed that it was happening, and we've because of our relationship with some people in the industry, we've actually heard from some people that something big is happening. 2024 is going to be really hard, and the explanation to that is something that people just don't understand because they think that it's not just the weather. The weather is not too different than what it was. It is a little bit odd, but it's not different. In COVID time, people were spending too much time at home. There was 5 to 7 years worth of work done in a crunched 2 year period. So there is a little bit of an aftermath, which when it's going to take time, people already did everything they need to do in their house. They already fixed everything. They already spent all the money they had. And now with all the recession conversations and everything that's happening out there and interest rates, people are just kind of holding on to their money a little bit. So it will take about maybe another year or so, maybe less than that, hopefully. Or, thank God we're heating and air conditioning. If it's hot outside, people are picking up the call and your call center is going to get blown up with phone calls. But essentially, when we notice that it's kind of taking that route, what we started doing is we started doing, traditional marketing. You have to send magazines. If customers are not, people are always, you guys probably understand it more than anyone. People are always complaining to the marketing companies. I need more calls. I need more calls. I don't have enough calls. Put a higher budget. But you haven't used up your budget before. I don't care. Put a higher budget. No one is clicking your ad, man. What are you talking about up the budget? There is no budget. No one is searching for you online. So you have to get in front of them in those times. So a couple of the things that we did is we did the print media. We actually took out flyers for every appointment that we go to, whether if it's a service call or install call, and that is basically giving the customer a free tune-up. Now, it's very strange to me if someone would walk into my house with a beautiful wrapped van, dressed in a nice shirt, knocking on my door, and tell me, hey, can I clean your air conditioner for free and be out of your head in about 30 minutes? I would be really shocked unless you look very unsafe. I would be shocked if someone would not want to take it. So we did that. We made sure to do outbound calls. We changed all of our bonuses for our call center. We made sure there's different bonuses every week. Whoever has this many conversion or whoever does this many calls this week gets $5 a booking. If you make 80 calls a day, everything that you book, you get $5. As long as you made the calls, everything that you booked, you were able to get. So there's all of that you can do. There's Chirp, which is basically an app that allows you to reach out. And there's a lot of them out there. It allows you to throw your customers into different buckets. So for example, you went into a customer's house and you sold them a repair, but you haven't sold them a membership. Great, that falls into the bucket of the membership. And you start outbounding them with text messages every day. If you sold someone an install and you haven't sold them a membership, same thing. If you sold someone a membership and not a repair, they fall into these different buckets. If a customer reached out to you and they didn't book with you, they get a video of us saying, thank you so much for reaching out to us. I noticed that you haven't actually booked the appointment with us. Please give us a chance to earn your business again. Is there anything else we can do? You have to get really creative and try things that people haven't tried before. And it's all out there online. There's another thing that we started really trying to put our focus on, which was every time that you go to, I got this from, that was from Ken Goodrich. It was in the last Pantheon. Basically, every time that you go to a house, there's a sticker on the furnace or a sticker on the AC. Call the number. Most of HVAC companies shut down within the first few years. Call that number. If the number is inactive, purchase that number, transfer their calls over to you. Now you've got tons of phone calls coming in. So there's all these ideas that you can keep doing. All you have to do is just go to a shop tour, go on, Facebook groups, and just ask people, what should you do? There's so many people that are going to be reaching out. I guarantee you, if anyone's going to be walking into my shop and asking me, what do we do? I'll grab them, sit them with our marketing coordinator, sit them with the call center manager, and just tell them, look, this is what we're doing. And you got to understand, you got to do the work. People got really comfortable in COVID time. Money, just throw money at it. More money. Let's just put more money. It's not enough money. It's not just about putting money out there. You have to get really creative. You have to give your customer a good experience. You have to make sure that you did everything you could to preserve the customer for next year when you're going to be slow again, because it's happening again. And you can't just wake up in the middle of slow season and say, I got to do marketing. I got to do print. No, it starts before. Like people right now are enjoying like busy season when phone calls are coming in. We're not enjoying busy season. We're saying, good, everyone have calls on the board. Let's talk about slow season. What are we doing next year? What are we doing next? What did we do that didn't work for us? So it's really important to make sure that you're ahead of the game and just ask questions. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. And you can't be lazy about it either. You're going to have to do some work.
I love that you're already thinking about it now.
Yeah. Well, it's what moves you from being a weather-driven business to a weather-assisted business. Right? Yeah. You're in control of your revenue and your calls and your job board year-round. Doesn't matter what's happening in the weather. We're just going to allow that to supplement whatever it is that we're doing. If we need to turn down our outbounding this month because it is reaching 90, 95, 100 degrees outside, fantastic, right? If there's a hurricane that rolls through and we're going to get a bunch of insurance calls, fantastic. Right? Shitty, don't get me wrong, but hey, let's face it, our every trades business is supplemented by extreme weather conditions.
Yeah, and another thing that people need to do also is to kind of extend the range of the services that they're doing if the season is not there. We're not right. In plumbing yet. We're not maximizing HVAC yet, so there's no point in us getting into plumbing. But we did open plumbing by basic services, basic needs, whatever it's water heaters and tankless water heaters. And I like that every problem is an opportunity in disguise. When we were in that moment where things were being really difficult for us, we said, perfect opportunity to double down on training. Let's do 2 trainings every time that we have it. Let's do more of this. Let's improve the process. Let's implement a new system right now. We're slow. There's no calls. There's no day-to-day hustle. You have the time to actually sit down and do it. So why don't you offer an additional service? At the end of the day, what do you really need to do? You need to get in front of that customer with a smile, with a good attitude. Offer them all the services that you do. Ask them if there's anything they need help with. Make sure that you give them such a good experience and ask them if there's anything else you could improve in your work. I think you really have to take advantage of these moments when things are tough, instead of just running around with a chicken with a head cut off and just start really micromanaging everyone in the business, because the business owner loves to do that sometimes. Why don't we have call? And they go to the marketing company. Why is this not working? You have to understand that there are going to be times like that. You just have to understand there is a playbook for everything. It's not the first time. It's not the last time. And people have been going through these slow seasons since the 80s, the 70s. Like there is a playbook for it. You just don't know what it is. So you got to go out and get it. That's your job as the business owner, to get the answers and implement them as fast as you can.
I want to emphasize, sorry, Evan, I want to emphasize something that I think is really, really critical for business owners to understand over the next couple of years. Something that Mike said earlier. He said, there's been about 6-7 years worth of construction done in a period of 2 years because people were at home. It was the perfect time for them to, take care of projects that have been holding on for a while. And now we're kind of seeing the decrease of that demand, right? And so we need to, as business owners, you need to understand like one thing that can kind of be your North Star, something that you're making your decisions based off of. And that would be, the game during COVID was labor. Whoever has the labor wins the game, right? Whoever has the most labor can pick up as many jobs as possible, make as much money. Everybody were winning. Everybody were doing well when it comes to service because there was such a high demand, right? And right now, the game is no longer labor. The game is marketing. And it's very difficult for small businesses to compete, online with the larger corporations, that have the funds and, they're going to spend $100, $150 on a click when, a smaller operation might not be able to afford it. So what Mike mentioned there is really critical for businesses right now. Go back to something go back to traditional marketing.
Back to
something
basics.
that the price doesn't change when the competition is not really, on the corporation level touching those areas, because the magazine price or the flyer price or the mailers or all of those things, the price stayed the same, and you're putting yourself in front of the customer. And that's one way of winning right now. So if you're listening to this and you're kind of having a hard time, extend your range, the area of service a little bit, maybe try to offer more services, go back a little bit to traditional marketing that can work really well during this season, and maybe even change the mindset through, instead of talking, like if you're an HVAC company, instead of talking heating and cooling, which might not be the pain point or the need necessarily, it could be air quality, like talking about air quality in the house, cleaning your vents or installing an air purification system in the house. These kind of things can be super, super useful during this time.
Right.
Yeah,
And I like the fact that the game is marketing, and you look back since they started, since the studies in like the 50s when advertising became a lot more prevalent. I mean, guess what happens generally every 7 years in an economy? Well, you go through booms and busts, right? Peaks and valleys.
Yep.
And they've actually done studies on this, and I have the data. I haven't looked at it and updated it in, I don't know, 10 years, 8 years. And so there's probably more on that. But every company that has actually in the valley spent more on marketing, he's actually came out of their competition by like 100, 200% above their competition, because people might not remember or might not need the services now. But if you're there, you're there, you're there, you're there, you're there. Well, now this creates staying power in your brand. They're like, oh shit, this company's advertising. They must be successful. They must be strong. They must be a good company.
Yeah, it's cemented.
It's cemented. And so that way, when it does come out of it, now they're going to remember that company who is doing more of the guerrilla type things, more of the traditional type things, more of the branding plays, because it's a super smart thing to be able to do. Now, when you do the branding and you have a good online, by the way, it actually helps augment your online and actually becomes and creates it stronger. So when you got your traditional things that you're doing, and then you have a great company like On Purpose Media doing your online stuff, now you've doubled down and you're creating an even better pop for your business. So I love
It's
that.
true.
I love
It's
that.
And it's consistency too. It's consistency. It's
Mm-hmm.
people think, oh, next gen has billboards up. Let me put billboards up. And then they drive with their girlfriend in the car. Look how awesome I am. Look, I got a billboard up there. I'm a big man. It's not necessarily about just that. That is pretty cool. Yeah, having a billboard up there is pretty cool. You're gonna feel like the man. But at the end of the day, the billboard is not what's going to get you the calls. I remember I don't know who I talked to, that there was a billboard up there of this company and it didn't have a phone number. And the guy was laughing at them. Look at them. So dumb. They don't have a phone number. They don't have a website. They don't have anything. How are people going to reach them? Who the hell is driving down the road looking at a billboard and jumping on their phone quickly to call the company? Are you kidding me? It's brand awareness. There's brand
Mm-hmm.
awareness. And then the idea is when they will need the service and they will see your face online, they will see your logo online among all these other companies, something is going to feel more comfortable. Something is going to feel more safe. Maybe they're even going to say, oh, finally, I can actually get to work with these guys. I didn't even know that's what they do, but I recognize them every time from and to work. So you do need to, like I said, it's just cement it over time. You have to make sure that you're everywhere, and you have to make sure that you're consistent too. I have right now, some of the companies here in the Bay Area that I'm noticing, and they started this billboard thing going up, and I'm noticing them doing it in so many different areas too. And I believe there's a better strategic way to do it. I think that if you throw one billboard and then 40 miles after, you're going to throw another billboard, that's not necessarily going to give you the effect that you need. Why don't you do it in the same 5 miles where your trucks are driving to those people in that area? You can actually look like the biggest company out there. They can think, oh my God, you guys, they're so successful. They're everywhere. I see them everywhere. That's the reality. That's the concept. That's what they see. So you have to be really, really strategic about it. And, like David was saying about air quality and stuff like that. Did you know, you guys, you're going to laugh at this one, a company, I remember when there's a lot of people that came here to do a shop tour, and we're showing them the operation, and we told them, our plans for growth and everything. And, they're saying, how are you going to get through slow season and stuff like that? Now, all the mistakes we made, we're actually taking advantage of them right now. This slow season was the first time that we've ever sent an email to a customer, like to a list of customers, to advertise something or to offer them a service. Since the first day the company opened, we have never reached out to any of our customers to offer any service at all, ever. And it was just because we weren't aware of how it works. We just learned what's a tech turn process about, a year ago, maybe. We just heard about it, and it's just like we're getting these things over time, but it's something that has been there. If we would have talked to the right person, the right company, they would have told us what to focus on first. We would have probably done that. Yeah, it's important. It's important. All of it is important. You got to stay consistent all the time. You can't just stop.
Well, there's still so much room for growth. Like, that's the cool thing. You guys have done incredible things so far. And yet there's still these things that to most guys is like, oh, this is obvious. They're not even doing that, right?
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck? Because you are outpacing them just based on effort. Now you start adding in all these extra things, like getting Jack and Travis and the whole team involved at Elite Call, and now you're crushing that. And then you get Chirp involved, and now you're crushing that. And you're filling in all these little holes. You're plugging the holes throughout the entire funnel. And
Yep.
I was on a podcast earlier today, and it was part of the conversation there. It's like, look, if you're trying to grow 150%, like you guys were trying to do to start this year, you don't need to grow your call volume by 150%, right? How can you plug the holes all throughout the funnel so that you grow each part of it by 6%, 7%, 10%, right? And over
100%.
time, that exponential result is the 150% growth.
100%, no pun intended. It's you have to, like, what's your conversion rate right now? Some companies are out there with conversion rates of like 10% on marketed leads, or 70% in the call center. You don't need to spend more money. You need to do more training. You don't
Right.
need to hire more people. You need to train your people. You need to maybe buy them a coffee once every few weeks, maybe take them to lunch. Is this the best you can do? There's a sentence that I'm always saying to myself, with every time that I get a little bit unmotivated, every time I get a little bit lazy or comfortable, I'm always asking, so is this the best you can do? Is it the absolute best you can do? Is this the last thing you're going to do in your life? That's your last piece of work? You have to really invest more and make better of what you have right now. And what you mentioned here kind of taps into the whole idea of how we grew and what did we figure out. Basically, what we did was we went to Pantheon 2022. They invited us over. Initially, we didn't want to go. It was like $1,000 a ticket. I've never went to a conference in my life. I'm like, $1,000 a ticket. I'd rather go to to see, I don't know, like Jay-Z or something like that. I don't want to pay $1,000 to like hang out with some boring guys from the industry like us. And they basically said, you know what, we'll give you a free ticket. And we said, cool, let's do it. It was down in LA. We'll see some friends and family. We went over there and our minds were just blown. This was just, we started talking
That
to all
changed
these different
everything.
people. It changed everything. We just asked them, what do you do and how do you do? And then the shop tour thing came about. A few different, business owners told us, like, come to do a shop tour. And, the first shop tour that we did, I don't know if it's do you think I should tell the story about the next gen, the first? Okay. So we basically, we did the first shop tour. We were like, we're going to go, we're going to go see next gen. There was this hype, I loved listening to the podcast. And, I said, we're going to go there. We drove down to LA. Our plan was to be there the following day. But actually, no one knows this. But we went over there, and we were just getting into LA. And we said, you know what? Why don't we go see the shop right now? This was like 9:30 at night. It's like, let's go see the shop right now. And like we told, what are we going to do there? It's like 9:30. So I don't know. Let's just go see it. That's a company that gave us so much motivation. Let's just go see it. And I see the big sign, the neon sign. I'm like, wow, there it is. And I walk in there and I actually see people over there working. So I walked over to the guys and I asked them, what do you guys are doing? I see them like cleaning the van, and they weren't really about it. They weren't really about to talk to me. They were not really interested. But little did they know, I actually speak fluent in Spanish. So as soon as I pulled out that card, they were like, oh, he's a homie. And they started talking to me and we started joking. We went for a secret tour at 9:30 p.m. That guy would probably be fired if anyone would have known. That guy gave us a full tour of the operation, brought us into every single room, every single office space, every single one of them, and explained to us the whole business. And we were just writing notes. We just wrote notes about everything. How did they do every single thing that they have over there in the operation? And the next day we came to a shop tour. And we basically had a very specific goal because we were strategic about it. We're not, let's just go do a shop tour. It's going to be cool. Let's go do a shop tour. What for? Call center? Great. Sales? Great. Service? Great. And we basically went to every owner, any manager of that department and asked them for the whole methodology, like everything that they have. Just give me everything you have. And we wrote it down, and it was hours and hours of work. We're there for 14 hours that day. We drained these poor managers. Like, we were so nice to them. We bought them lunch and coffee and really helped them. Liz, she's absolutely awesome from NextGen. She definitely helped me a lot. She was there so patient with me 2 or 3 times when I was there. I went back again and again for more questions, and she still answers every time I text her. So she's absolutely awesome. But you have to really focus on each department, get the information, implement it, and then move to the next thing. And you just got to do it. So the same like marketing we're talking about and outbound calling and all these things, focus on your marketing, get the methodology, get the information from someone, start implementing it one by one. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be amazing. But if you spread it out, like Evan said, just do 6%, 6%, 6%, it's compounding interest. It's just going to start, improving itself.
Well, and that's just the mentality of like next gen, right? Or really anybody, the people that's the giver's gain, right? And when you want to give back to be able to do those things, it's huge. Now you're reciprocating that back to other people, and when people give to you, give back to others, and it's a super powerful thing. And I know that Ishmael has said that. Yeah, I think he stepped down from the CEO role to focus on Nuve now, but there's others that are inside the industry that will open their doors at any given time. Any hour is a good example, right? I know that any hour will open their doors at any single time for a shop tour, and they're $100 million per year. So you want to see a bigger operation. But here's the thing that I like about what actually happened, and the person probably wouldn't get fired, but he actually knew. I mean, they're there at 9:30 at night, and he's doing cleaning vans or whatever. He knows everything that's going on in the business. He knows everything that's happening because of the culture that they instilled there, right? That's the other part, is when people are bought into your vision, when people are bought into your culture, people are bought into what you want to create, man, they get on board for it. And that's a powerful motivator in humans. So, gentlemen, we're up to the hour on things. I do want to thank you guys for coming on the show. We're going to drop a couple of things here in case anybody wants to get a hold of you guys. Check you guys out. TrioHeatingandAir.com is how you do that. Of course, if you want to follow them on Facebook, facebook.com/Trio Heating and Air. Instagram, same thing, Trio Heating and Air. But if you want to get in touch with Michael, you can hit him up on Instagram or on LinkedIn at Mickey Michael Katz. And if you want to get in touch with David, it's don't worry, we'll put these all in the show notes after. So Instagram, who is David David K, and on LinkedIn, David Katz there. And so, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to come on the show. However,
Go do a shop tour.
Go
Go
do a
see
shop
these
tour.
guys.
Yeah, guys,
Reach out
you
to
are
them. Do a shop
welcome.
tour.
You're
Yes.
welcome to come in, talk to any
Yes.
of our managers. We're an open book. Anything that you need, just come in, talk to us. Like our first priority is just making sure we're paying people in our company as much as possible. We want to be as competitive as possible in the industry. That's going to be the main focus with any conversation. Customers and the people in your company will make it happen. Just reach out to us. We'll help you out with whatever you need.
Perfect. And of course, if you want to, they've talked a lot about Elite Call as well as Chirp. Been a big instrumental success to them. Make sure you check out Elite Call. Make sure you check out Chirp. Tell them that we sent you guys from this podcast. So everybody gets the credit on that. So thank you guys. But before we go, we have one final question. Who wants to take this one first?
David. Oh, David, take it.
All right, David.
Let's do it.
What is one question that you wished people would ask you more but don't?
I think that the most common one that many companies should focus on. I think that, well, number one, most companies that I talk to, it seems to me like it's just a thing, right? Like people are pricing themselves based on the market, like based on what their competitors are doing, based on what they see, or based on what sounds okay. And there are every business have their own expenses. Every business is different. Like you have to price based on yourself. So I think if people would ask me one, just what is the process to build your price book? That will be like one of the foundational things you need to do in a business, because like the one thing that I want to make sure it's happening here is that we are going to, like, our guys here are getting paid probably the best in the industry. Like literally try to find a pay plan that's better than ours, people that are making more money than our technicians, than our salespeople, that are more than our management team. It's going to be super rare. But it all comes down from that. It all comes down from being priced right, right? And at the end of the day, the customers are going to benefit from it. They're going to get a better service because you have a great company with people that are getting, 401k and vacation pay and great health benefits and great vehicles and great pay. And they're going out there and projecting this great service to the clients. But it all starts with that. You have to be priced right. You have to figure out your numbers. And I'm happy to help with this. I hope more companies would focus on that first before they do anything else.
How often do you update your price book?
Ideally, we want to do this every 3 months. If you do this every 6 months or once a year, I would say at the very least once a year. And it's a big project, right? But once you do it the first time, it becomes so much easier. The next year and the next year,
But we have to build it right the first time, because
Correct.
unfortunately, one of the struggles we've had, and a lot of companies are going through it too, technicians and sales guys and installers and everyone are going to come to you and basically say, hey, we should add that. Hey, we should change this. Hey, what do you think of that? And we were, the victims of that. Like we were literally changing it every single day, restructuring it every single day. But the one thing that solved it for us was the fact that, just like I said, we did a shop tour. We went to a shop, we asked them to take a look at their price book, and we wrote down notes of how they broke it down and why they broke it down. Your price book is not just for the customer, it's for your technicians too. Find the item, be strategic about it. Find the item that is the most profitable for you and give them the most aggressive or the best benefit or the most value on that and direct them to it. It has to be also user friendly. It has to be simple. So I think price book is, like you said, a really big thing. As soon as we came back from Pantheon, that was probably the most uncomfortable thing we ever done in the business. We just jacked up our prices. We raised all of our prices. We thought everyone were going to quit the next day, but we explained to them, we show them the breakdown. You calculate your expenses, your profitability, how much you want to make this year. You want to make that? Okay. Reverse engineer that into the price. Figure out what the price needs to be so you can do it. And when you do all these little things, it starts to add up. So the price book is such a big thing.
No, it's huge. And that's another 10 minutes unpacking all of that. There's a lot of great tools out there. I think of the new flat rate. I know they're working on transitioning from menu pricing to more margin pricing and being able to build in some of those to be able to hit what you want to hit as well. So shout out to them. They do great things there as well. And so in transitioning to you, Michael, what is one question that you wish people would ask you more but don't?
I think probably for me, it would be just the question of the what is the most important thing to focus on in the business. I think that sometimes people kind of come with the agenda of like a question about something. And I think at the end of the day, what it should actually start with is what is the most important thing to focus on in the business. And what I would tell them is what was the revelation to me, the cycle that I understood, because I always try to understand how do I attract the best talent? How do I make sure that I'm profitable? How do I give the best benefits? And it kind of ties to what David was saying. So the cycle is this, and this is what all these, large corporates are doing, all these companies that have been around forever, and probably what a private equity is going to do when they buy out your business, if they will, hopefully one day. What they do is basically they price themselves right. They have a very specific structure and they pay their people well. And their pay process, at least for us, is so simplified to the point that people know how much they made the exact same second that they did it. When you have a perfectly priced price book, really the right price to you, again, not the market to you, not lower than the market, higher than the market. It's not about that. It's about what you want. Do you want vacation? Do you want a Hawaii incentive every quarter? Do you want, what is it that you want? Do you want a top performer award? Do you want to buy them tools? Everything that you need to do. And the cycles begins because you pay your people right. Because you pay your people right and the process is working well, you're attracting better talent. You have more money to actually spend on preserving the talent and keep them with you. And after that, we need to actually make sure that we give the best customer experience, best customer service to the customer. And the cycle just continues. A talented individual who is happy because he's making good money and he knows how much he's making, who's having a good, smooth operation, the job is sold today, it's being installed tomorrow. That's our business model. When you have all of that, it's just a cycle that continues on and on and on. So I wish people would have asked me exactly, what to focus on. And I would say start with that. Have the entire process simple. People ask me a lot of the times, how do I keep my top talent? My top sales rep is thinking about leaving or all these different things. Well, you got to ask yourself a question. Is everything perfect in your operation? Is everything smooth? Are jobs being put on the board? Does the guy know how much he's being paid? Did we ever lose a payment? Did we make sure to pay them right? Is there anyone else that can offer more? Is the culture affecting? It's just this perfect cycle that I wish people would really focus on. And you'll see at some point, I'll give you probably the best nugget I could ever give to any business owner. I've done this with David and I'll wrap with this. About a year ago, not less than a year ago, it was like 9 months ago, I grabbed all the managers in the middle of the day into the conference room. Every single one of the managers. I just had an idea. I put them in the room, I sat down, and I started writing down everything. I wanted to know what to focus on. I was so overloaded with so many implementations and new systems that I couldn't handle it anymore. And David kept telling me, let's focus on one thing at a time. And I like to overload, with so many things to do. So what I did is I said, you know what? I'm going to ask the people that really know what we need to focus on. I sat everyone in the room and I started writing down on the board, customer service, installations, past and city inspection, marketing. I started writing every single pillar of the business and the heads of all the departments were there. Call center, script, customer experience, conversion, everything. And I basically told them all of us together are going to get an average answer of the grading from 1 to 10, how we're doing and where we're doing. And as soon as we saw the numbers 4 or 5, everything that was 7 or above, it's an ongoing process of its own. It's going to resolve itself. Like I don't need to put all my attention on that. But everything that was 5 or 4 or below that, those are the stuff we needed to work on. Our collection process, when we finish the job right now, are we actually collecting on it? We made sure that we're focusing on those things, and it just from there it just kind of compounds and it becomes really, really smooth.
Well, and it's actually funny. You reminded me about something that I just did when I was last week or 2 weeks ago when I was down somewhere. They did the same thing. Like you list off the quadrants of your business and you rank them in order. And so now you can actually focus on there. And so like it's sometimes things that you think are bad actually aren't bad. It's something else. And so having that group think in that department to be able to do that, super smart idea, super powerful exercise as well. I encourage everybody to be able to do that. So, gentlemen, thank you for coming on, dropping a lot of nuggets and a lot of wisdom on today's show. It really was a good revelation, and even some of these things for us and our business can be applicable as well. So thank you for that. So.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And shout out to Jose too for making all this happen, making sure that he could coordinate you two and get you in the room and make sure that we get this done, because this was great.
Jose is the best.
Awesome. Well, thanks, gents. And until next time.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.